Welcome to the Finance Friends podcast. Whether you have followed us from the beginning or you're a new listener, we are excited to have you here. Finance Friends gives our listeners a seat at the table with successful finance industry leaders. Follow us on our socials at Finance Friends Podcast, linked in the description box of this episode, and stay tuned for weekly episode releases. Welcome to the Finance Friends podcast, and we are rounding up season 2, and what a joy it's been. We've interviewed some incredible guests, and I hope you've enjoyed listening to all the episodes. Today's episode, I've got the lady behind the scenes that does everything for the podcast, Sienna. Welcome, Sienna.
Hi, thank you. This feels weird actually being in the episode. I'm normally just listening.
No, that's fine. So Sienna is the producer, director, scriber, videographer, photographer, everything that gets done on this podcast. Sienna pretty much does everything. So thank you for all your work, Sienna.
You're welcome. I mean, this has been amazing for me on the sidelines, really getting this season out, especially from season 1 to season 2, the big jump. And I think that's why we're kind of doing this episode. We've gotten so many new listeners come in season 2, and we kind of just want them to get to know you and us and the podcast as a whole. So yes, it's really exciting.
Well, it is exciting, and what's more exciting is the launch of season 3. We have some massive guests on season 3.
Major, definitely.
So household names that, especially if you follow football.
If you follow the AFL,
I won't mention who's going to be on the podcast.
Not
we
yet.
want to keep it a secret.
Not yet.
But
we're keeping it a secret.
You know, we do have someone that, Sienna was
idol.
Yeah.
Idol, yeah.
Well, let's not go into too much
we
detail.
can't give too much away.
We can't give that away, but we do have lots of incredible people. But so what have you most enjoyed about season 2, Sienna?
Season 2 was incredible. I think we had so many amazing guests, and I feel like everybody says that, but sitting in and listening in to all of their stories and their careers and how they shaped their lives, and it's just been so interesting from my perspective. I'm a student still, and a university student, and learning from these such successful professional people who, are just kind of like everyone else and really are disciplined, motivated. It's been so insightful. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the key themes that I heard from our guests included that your first opportunity in the finance industry isn't going to be the perfect opportunity, but it is about getting your foot in the door. And 100%. A lot of people just said, just get your foot in this door. We had a few guests actually that started in a contact center on the phones.
Yeah.
And they didn't know what they wanted to be, longer term. And the other key theme was your career is not linear.
Yeah.
So even though you might become you might work in an operations team supporting a team in India, right, to end up with the head of marketing as an example. It's not linear. So just be open to take on new challenges, be open to learning and work hard, I think is a common theme. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. I think if you guys listening had listened to last week's episode, which was Natalie, she spoke a lot about that, and I resonated with her a lot because she started off studying journalism and then ended up working for AMP and in marketing and in finance essentially. So like that idea that all of these people we've interviewed through season 2 have really chopped and changed their careers is inspiring and also a bit comforting because you don't have to know it all. Like a lot of our listeners are students, and I think it's comforting for them to hear that you're not going to start with the pinnacle job. It comes with work and changing and different experiences.
And even when we had David on the podcast, David Werdiger, he talks about having 3 careers to date. His dad was running a family business, and his expectation was to be in the business.
Yeah.
And he wanted to do his own thing. Right, so he was in software computing and and now he works with very successful families around succession planning and family dynamics, which is really insightful. So I think it is important just to be open. I know about my career to date as well. I'm sort of, I would say maybe a third of the way through my career that I started in financial planning and worked in private wealth, and now I'm in recruitment. So just being open to learn and take on new challenges, and your career will evolve.
Definitely.
And be open to that.
Definitely. And I think a lot of our listeners are new. So Fabian, do you want to kind of give them a rundown of your career and where you started, and I guess all the experiences that brought you to this moment in your career, and also just hosting a podcast? Like, what's happened? How did it all come about?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a whirlwind. We've come a long way since launching the podcast in October 2024.
Yeah, from season 1.
Yeah, from season 1. So it's always something I've wanted to do. I love talking to people. I love meeting people. I've emceed a few events.
Fabian knows everyone. Absolutely. He can't walk down the street. He knows everyone.
They don't know me, but I know them.
No, sometimes it's the opposite. Fabian's like celebrity here, definitely. Yeah.
Definitely on Collins Street.
Yeah.
I know most people on Collins Street. Outside of Collins Street, 100%. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
And then the famous bars that everyone goes to, the finance bars like Garden State. But anyway, we digress a little bit. So I always loved maths, always loved business. I remember telling this story that my mum's really good with maths and numbers and money, and I remember my mum taught me a skill. She would work out the bill of the grocery bill before we got to the counter to know if it fell within her budget or not, and she'd only buy things within her budget.
Yeah.
And so I learned to actually calculate the cost of the grocery bill before we got to the counter. And I would guess to see roughly, within $1 of, a $150 bill.
Wow.
So I'd always be obsessed with money and budgeting, and then I'd always go into businesses and, a cafe and look at the way they operate and think to myself, well, they could be doing this better, or they could be saying that better, or they could be, upselling this item. So business has always been sort of part of my DNA, and maths has been part of my DNA. And I used to have I used to play when I was in high school. I'd play a game with my workmates, and I'd say, my schoolmates, and say that I'll be able to calculate the equation before you can calculate it on the calculator, within reason, nothing too crazy. Yeah. And that was my goal, to always work it out before they could do it on the calculator.
Oh, wow.
So I'm definitely gone downhill on the multiplication front point, but I still love maths. So I ended up doing a finance degree at university. And in my last year of university, I worked at ANZ in a foreign exchange role at the airport. So just did FX, foreign exchange for people that were going overseas.
Yep.
Actually served some pretty well-known professionals and well-known people, sports people. Because,
can you tell us who?
Who came through? Brian Lara came through.
Okay.
Brian Lara is a famous cricketer from the West Indies. Pretty cool, very much a cool cat. Served Gary Ablett Junior, and Gary Ablett Senior was there. Wow. This was right before he moved to the Gold Coast, so there was a lot of talk about him moving to the Gold Coast. And
you caught him on his flight there.
Yeah, I caught him on his flight to the US. So, and who else? Served Eric Banner. So a couple of very famous people. So not as famous as who we've got on the podcast.
Oh, you've got to wait for season 3, but
yeah, quite famous. So really enjoyed that. And actually at the time I wanted to. So this was 2010, 9-10 during the global financial crisis, and I was working at ANZ. I was trying to get a financial planning role within ANZ. And then I couldn't because of the current environment, economic environment. So my manager at the time said, well, why don't you have a conversation with my financial advisor? He might have an opportunity. So then I ended up working at the financial planning firm, was in an administration role. Again, you don't start doing the best role. I actually took a massive pay cut. Like at the bank at the time, I was earning like $85,000 because I was working shift work.
Yeah.
And I went to a role getting paid, I think, about $34,000.
Wow.
So
I think that's a great point. Like a lot of people, that saying you have to take 2 steps back to then take 2 steps forward, and it's so true when you're starting out your career.
Yeah, exactly. Take 1 step back and 2 or 3 steps forward. And that was the goal. Like, I could have stayed in that role and earned a decent salary, but ultimately I wanted to learn and grow and develop, and that was more important than short-term income. Yeah. And I think a lot of my advice would be, and my advice is always to young professionals I meet, prioritize learning, growth, the right organisation over income. Money will come. You don't have to worry. If you work hard, you study hard, you're driven, money will come, but you got to get the right environment, the right learning to be able to prosper that. So then I joined there, worked at that firm for about 4 years before I joined another firm as an independent financial advice firm, IFA, as they're known as, and I ran their investment portfolio. So I'd recommend direct equities, Australian, global, ETFs, and I'd give advice to our clients around their portfolios, and we were dealing with clients. Average client had about $2.5 million of investable assets that we would give advice on. Loved that, and I thought, well, I'm doing it here. Maybe I can do this in the UK. So I ended up moving to London. And I worked for a Swiss bank, Julius Baer, in private wealth, in their private wealth division, and it was great experience. Learned so much. We dealt with clients all around the world. Wow! So a lot of Middle Eastern clients that were worth billions of dollars. Wow. We had, we did payments globally. We helped them buy properties in the Cayman Islands. We set up offshore trusts. We did a wide ranging. It was a wide range of tasks we did for them, and pure play private bank for them, and obviously investment management is part of that. Then I came back and... How
long were you in the UK for?
Just over 2 years in the UK. Loved it. London's a great city. I highly recommend it. I'm actually heading to London shortly to catch up with some old work colleagues and friends.
That's amazing.
Great experience. Travelled lots through Europe. Highly recommend if you get the opportunity to live abroad, do it. Then I came back and I was like, well, time to come back and, make my parents proud, find a wife, have a family. That's the goal. Still not the case 8 years later. But anyway, let's move on. And then I wanted to be in a more people as much.
You're a people person.
I want to be in front of people. And I noticed that when I was at Julius Baer, like within the first month, I knew all 200 people in the office.
Wow.
And everyone's like, how do you know that person? I've been here 3 years. I've never spoke to that person. I'm like, well, why haven't you spoke to them?
Yeah.
I want to understand what they do and how they do it.
Yeah.
And that sort of led me to recruitment. So I started working at another firm for about 2.5 years, and that was great organisation, great mentor. And then I thought I want to do this on my own. So I set up Riva Recruitment, and that was 5.5 years ago. So now I provide recruitment services to investment management firms, private wealth firms, and that's anywhere from people with 2-3 years experience up to very senior people that lead teams.
Yeah. That's amazing. I think you were saying before, like you knew everyone in the office, and it's same here. Like we're in a shared office and you know everyone, and actually a lot of people we've bumped into have become guests on the podcast. So it's really interesting. I think that's a big theme of season 2 as well. Like everybody stresses network. So I mean your career journey has been amazing, and then I guess it kind of led you to the podcast. So what sparked the initial idea for these podcasts, and what was kind of your intention with it from the beginning?
Yeah, it's a great question, and thanks for asking the question, Sienna. So I have great conversations with incredible people every day, right? And I need to, bite myself to think, wow, like I'm having a conversation with this person who might lead a team of 30 people and, has grown their career and very well respected and might, be part of an investment management firm that manages over $1 billion, right? And there's a senior leader and I'm having a conversation with that person. And I feel that, these people offer a lot, and it's unfortunate that a lot of younger professionals coming up, whether it be students, whether young professionals, don't get to hear from these people, don't get a seat at the table, right? So what I want to is share the conversations I have with the people that don't get to hear these conversations, because I know I didn't have a mentor growing up. My parents didn't work in finance, didn't finish high school. So for me, it was, give our listeners opportunity to listen to someone they aspire to be, and what learnings can they get from that person to help better their career. And whether it might be, you talk about networking, how important networking is. It might be about, let's not focus on how much money you're going to make tomorrow. Let's focus on learning, growth, and development. That's really important. So for me, that's the premises of the podcast. And also I love interviewing people. So I can do what I love and let other people listen in and share the experiences that I get to experience every day.
Yeah, that's amazing. I remember, because we started the podcast in October of last year, in 2024, and I pitched the idea to you because you know everyone, and you have so many conversations with so many people about starting a recruitment podcast, because I started off working as solely a marketing associate for Reva, and then you expressed to me that you have had this idea for ages, that you want to share all these conversations that you're having every single day with these amazing people, and here we are. So it's really, really exciting, and it's been amazing to be a part of behind the scenes and watch it kind of grow through especially the last season.
Well, I can guarantee this podcast wouldn't exist if it wasn't for you, Sienna. So thank you. You've showed lots of initiative and you've done everything. So I do the easy part. I call the guests and say, hey, you want to be on the podcast? And I interview the guests. You do everything else. So without you, it definitely wouldn't be possible.
Oh, thank you. No, it's been an amazing journey. Even just learning, I'm learning myself how it all operates, and it's really been like a surreal experience with someone with my experience, which was next to none when I started, to be able to do this and bring something to life that you're so passionate about, I feel so passionate about, especially as a student. It's been a real privilege working on this podcast with you.
Yeah, awesome. Should we talk more about season 3?
I think so. I think we need to start dropping a little bit of hints, not too much.
Yeah, though. I think it's important to share the why of season 3.
Definitely.
So I'm fortunate enough to get a lot of people refer me as a well-known recruitment specialist in the world of finance, and I regularly get introduced to current professional sports people and people that have just finished being a professional sports person that are seeking the transition into finance. And there's a lot of people that have successfully transitioned from the sports field to the finance field, and they've got so much insight to share around that transition and how they did it, and also how challenging it is. It's not easy. It's, you talk about identity.
Yeah.
You used to having a lot of structure, and all of a sudden you don't have that structure. And there's a few key themes that emerge, and I was like, well, I'd love to share the experiences of, whether it be a football player, whether it be an Olympian, whether it be a rugby player, who are all on the podcast in season 3, and about their journey. And what they do now and how they got there. Yeah. And that's really important to current athletes who are thinking about what's next. When is the time to start thinking about what's next?
Yeah. I think important to current athletes, but just as much really important to anyone who's looking to feel motivated, to see what discipline looks like. Like, listening in, even from my perspective, we have recorded a few of the episodes already. And I learnt so much from these people who had such structured lives, also were in such high pressure environments for so long, and how they persevered through all of that and then came out in a second career and are now, at the top of that field. So it's interesting for people who can relate to them, but also people who just want to learn, what success takes, I guess.
Yeah, and I think the synergies of professional sport and being a professional in the world of finance was quite common.
100%. Yeah.
So it was really insightful, preparation, dedication,
Yeah.
achieving the ultimate goal. And again, I don't want to give too much away, but one of our guests says that, who, was a gold medalist, right? Won gold.
It's one hint.
Yeah, I won't say too much more, but as an athlete, his ultimate goal was to win a gold medal at the Olympics, and he achieved that. And now he's very successful in the world of finance, and he shares a story around, as a professional, a white collar professional, there's no ultimate goal of winning a gold medal.
Yeah.
Like, you just need to continually improve and get better, and not think there has to be an ultimate goal.
Yeah.
Just get better and learn and go with it.
Yeah, there's no real destination. It's just about being dedicated through all of it, through
it's almost
all
like
stages.
the journey is the destination to a point. Whereas, as an Olympian, the destination is the gold medal.
Yeah.
Right? So when you achieve the pinnacle, it's like, well, what's next? Like, I've achieved everything I've ever aspired to achieve. How can I still be content with what's next?
Yeah.
So it's okay not to be fully content, like I've reached the pinnacle of a gold medal, but it's still okay to then achieve new things and challenges and learnings, and sharing, this person, I won't give insight, share the insights around that. And that was it was a little bit emotional as well.
I mean, I will add, this season, I think a lot of the conversations that you had with our guests they did get very emotional, because it is such a massive life transition. So, not only are we talking about being disciplined and structured and, having ambition, but they're also talking about their experience as humans, and we can all relate to having a period of change in our lives and trying to figure out what the next step is, or wanting a change in even career. I think this season touches so many different topics, and it's really, really insightful for so many different groups of listeners. So really exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. I can't wait to drop the names, because there's a couple of people in our where we record at Hub Australia. We've got a podcast studio here, and when these guests walk in, everyone turns their head and says, Fabian, how did you get that guest on your podcast?
What is he doing here?
Yeah, exactly right. So we do have quite a few people in the shared office that are regular listeners.
Yeah.
So I said, you can't say anything yet. It's a secret.
Yeah, we got to get them to sign
NDA, non-disclosure agreement. Yeah, that's right. So super excited for season 3. Let's do it.
Yeah, we'll see you guys. It won't be too long, a couple of weeks in between the seasons, so we can get ready to post it and share with you all these amazing guests. But stay tuned. Stay tuned.
I'm so tempted to say something, but I won't. I'll hold off.
Yeah.
But thank you, Sienna. I appreciate all your work. And a last thing, we really appreciate if you could follow us on Instagram, to see our videos that we post, as well as follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, because that just means that we get a greater audience. The more follows we have, the higher we get ranked, and the more people that get to listen to our insightful stories, and most importantly, the incredible people we interview.
Yeah, and if a conversation particularly resonates with you, share it with someone that you know will appreciate it. In the next season, there's going to be so many people that you probably already know, and someone that idolizes that person. So it'd be such a help to us, but just to you and your network to share these incredible conversations. So we're really, really excited to share it with you guys.
That's right. Well, we better wrap it up there, Sienna. We could talk forever about the podcast. It's been so much fun. But thank you all. Appreciate all your listening, or everyone that's listening along. And and also provide feedback. We love feedback.
Yeah.
Can we do things? Is there any guests you'd like on the podcast?
Definitely.
Let us know.
Our DMs on Instagram are always open. Comment on any of our posts. If there's someone that you think would, be such a good fit for the podcast, let us know. We're keen.
And there's a good chance I might know them too.
That's true.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And
we'll see you next season.
That's right.
Disclaimer: this podcast exists for informational and entertainment purposes only. The personal opinions of the speaker and guests do not represent the view of any other party. If this recording contains reference to financial products, that reference does not constitute advice nor recommendations and may not be relied upon.